Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland. I'm carrying on my series about GCSE history, looking at international relations between the wars. This video is about the Paris peace treaties. I have already spoken about the Treaty of Versailles at some length. It was signed in the Palace of Versailles, which is 10 miles south of Paris. That was because, obviously, it was a huge and opulent building, so plenty of rooms for the diplomats and politicians to meet in. Paris was a very significant city, very important in the First World War, and it's where the Germans had hailed the German Emperor in 1871 after they defeated France. So there was a satisfying circularity for the French there, where their humiliation being complete, they were then able to humiliate Germany. So which were the other Paris peace treaties? Well, there was the Treaty of Saint-Germain, and that is after another place in Paris. The Allies signed that with Austria. There was the Treaty of Trianon, which the Allies signed with Hungary. Again, Trianon is a district of Paris. The Treaty of Sèvres, which the Allies signed with the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire being based around Turkey. Sèvres is best known for its pottery, but it's a district of Paris again. The Treaty of Neuilly, which the Allies signed with Bulgaria. Now, Neuilly is spelled Neuilly, but not pronounced Neuilly, as some people think. So the Paris peace treaties all had the same formula, which is to say war guilt clauses for the defeated Central Powers countries, reparations to be paid, therefore. The defeated country had to severely cut its armed forces and reduce its store of armaments. Territory was handed over to the victorious allies. Sometimes this land was used to create new countries, or sometimes to recreate countries which had disappeared off the map for a long time. These treaties were all signed by diktat, which is to say the allies parleyed amongst themselves about the terms that they were going to demand that Central Powers country signed, and at the end it would be a take it or leave it. You must sign instantly or we'll go back to war. And they all had League of Nations clauses. The League of Nations was set up. It's the old equivalent of the United Nations. The defeated countries were forbidden from joining the League of Nations, since, according to the Allies, the Central Powers had been so wicked in starting this cruel war. A few years later, the Allies changed their mind and they permitted their former enemies to join the League of Nations. So let's look at some of the consequences of the Treaty of Versailles and the other Paris peace treaties. The Germans heartily detested the Treaty of Versailles. They felt it was very humiliating and that it caused them grievous suffering. The war guilt clause led to reparations, and that meant great hardship in Germany, which is already having a bad time. Germans were finding it difficult enough to rebuild their own country after the devastation caused by war, all the money spent, all the young men killed, so many people wounded, so many people suffering malnutrition, the physical damage, buildings being blown up and so on. Like roads and railways had hardly been repaired for the 4 years of the war. They'd had to hand over loads of their merchant ships, their trucks and trains. Just right at the armistice in 1918, making it difficult to transport food or anything else around the country. They had now had a vast amount of money to pay to the Allies, and the loss of some economically valuable territory was difficult to bear. Now, it's true that many of these things had been done by the German government to other countries. For instance, the Allies pointed out when Romania was knocked out of the war in May 1918, Germany had imposed very severe terms on Romania, and for instance saying that all the oil pumped out of Romania had to be given to Germany for free for the next 99 years. And the Allies claimed that their terms were lenient in comparison to what the German government had imposed when she had defeated other countries. So many Germans nevertheless felt the treaty was an outrageous act of injustice. They believed that their country wasn't the only one that was culpable for starting the war, and German historians published a book of several volumes elucidating why they believed that Germany was the injured party and there was other countries which were chiefly responsible for causing the war. Some Germans said that their country had been properly beaten, that they were still occupying a bit of Belgium and France, for instance, when the armistice was signed. In Germany, the army had been held in very high esteem. There was that old saying about Prussia, that's the area around Berlin, that it's not a country with an army, it's an army with a country. So the army would have been a core source of national pride. So it was very hard to accept that their army had been defeated. So there was an intellectual fight back against that Article 231, the War Guilt Clause, and the German counterblast convinced a few people. As the war was coming to an end, the Kaiser, that's the German Emperor, he abdicated his throne for himself and his family forever, and he fled to the Netherlands, a neutral country. A new democratic government was founded. Germany was the Vimal Republic. It's officially called the German Republic, but commonly known in Germany as the Weimar Republic. And this gave ordinary Germans a proper say in running their country for the first time. So some people said it's very wrong to punish ordinary people for the decision of the Kaisers and a few of his militaristic cronies. The common people had not had a proper voice in the decision-making process. Before that, Germany had signed the armistice in November 1918 on the understanding that there would be peace with justice, as President Wilson of the United States had promised them. So the German government believed that peace would be along the lines adumbrated by Wilson earlier that year. In January 1918, he had published his 14 points. So they felt that they'd been conned. Now the French and British and so on said, wait a second, we never said a word about the 14 points. Wilson said that. Wilson's not the only Allied leader. This was self-delusion on the part of the Germans. There's no bad faith on our part. And even many Americans didn't accept a lot of Wilson's 14 points. So many people in Germany said that Wilson's just peace had not been delivered. It was victor's justice, which was wrongfully claiming that the Allies were white or white, that Central Powers countries were utterly wicked. General Jan Christian Smuts, who was a Prime Minister of South Africa, said it was a Carthaginian peace. He was looking back to ancient history when Rome had defeated Carthage and completely demolished the city of Carthage so that not one stone was standing in another, and sowed its land with salt, as in so nothing would ever grow there again, leading to the utter destruction of that country. So Smuts said that the peace was unwarrantably harsh. Germany had signed the armistice in November 1918, assuming that peace terms would be lenient. And the Treaty of Versailles bore little resemblance to Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Germany had been largely a military dictatorship during the war. Therefore, it was wrong to penalise the majority of Germans, or decent like any other nationality, for the wickedness of a few, the misdeeds of their masters over whom the common people had no control. The task of moderate politicians in Germany seeking to hold back militarists and ultranationalists was made immensely more difficult by the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was not allowed to join the League of Nations, though in 1926 the Allies relented on that one. Germany had to disarm to a greater extent than the Allies, and that laid Germany open to attack. There was this principle of national self-determination, but somehow it didn't apply to Germans, almost as though they're not human. How come German majority areas can be given to other countries? Districts where people were German by blood and language were given to other countries in a few cases. They joined France or Poland or Czechoslovakia. Some people in Germany said this is utterly unfair. Anyway, so as I say, the French and British said we didn't sign up to Wilson's 14 points. Germans had not been allowed to negotiate. They had to sit there and simply listen to the Allies discussing amongst themselves about the terms that they were going to present to their vanquished foe. It was a take it or leave it situation, and the German delegation were given 24 hours to sign in June 1919, or else the Allies would immediately renew the war, and Germany had been greatly enfeebled in the 7 months since the armistice, which is why Germany did sign this under protest, saying this is totally unfair, but we feel we have no choice. It was under duress. It's like asking to sign somebody to sign something with a gun to their head. But that's the way it goes. I mean, all peace treaties have an element of duress. We'd have no peace treaties at all if that were the case, because they've been preceded by fighting. And that's the default setting. The armistice was not a permanent peace. It was a cessation in hostilities, whilst the countries were deciding what the long-term peace terms would be.